All right, well, I'm here at the Blister Summit with Riccardo Bonaiti,
Yes.
and he is the International Product Manager for Dalbello.
Yes.
So it's a great honor to have you. I hear you just were out in the powder making some turns here at Crested Butte.
Yeah.
Is this your first time here?
First time here. Really amazed by the slopes. It's very, very interesting place. Very interesting resort. I liked it.
Excellent. And just give us a bit of background with how you started with Dalbello and what that role looks like.
Okay, I've started with Dalbello right before the pandemic, right before the outbreak of the pandemic,
wow.
luckily, 2019. And they kind of found me through friends, and there is a girl that is actually the FIS media manager for the Women World Cup. Is one of the girls that skis with us, with the package, Dalbello, Marker, and Focal. And she gave my contact to the company, and then the company called me, and we had some 2 or 3 meetings, and then they decided to hire me.
Wow. So it's probably been an interesting and exciting 3 years.
Yeah, it has been 3 very interesting years as everything happened in the last 3 years,
Yeah.
as I've entered into the work business, and it has been 3 challenging years, but still very funny.
Excellent. Well, this is a pretty exciting year for Dalbello, and you've gotten to see a new project through to fruition. And so I think before we dive into what that is, let's talk a bit about what a 3-piece boot or a Cabrio boot means to the lineup of Dalbello ski boots, and potentially why you've decided to really focus on 3-piece boots for this year.
Okay, thank you. Substantially, the main difference between a classic overlap for buckle boots and a 3-piece structure boot is the performance that they gives you. Classic 4-buckle overlap boot has the shell that is connected to the cuff with 1 or 2 screws, and so it's a really direct connection. And in terms of performances, is the one that gives you the best performance on slopes and on groomed situations. So, in fact, if you look at World Cup races, all the athletes are on 4 buckles overlap boot. The reason why there is this structure is that this structure performs better on irregular terrain, dishomogeneous kind of conditions of snow. And here there are 3 pieces instead of 2, a shell, a tongue, and a cuff. The cuff is not connected with 2 screws in the back to the shell, but is connected just with the 2 pivots on the side. And the flex is mainly dominated by the tongue. This gives you a much more smoother response by the ski boot, and that's why tendentially freestylers, freeriders prefer this structure, thanks to literally to the different performance that it gives you.
Now, for those who have been following Dalbello for any time, know that you've had the Krypton series and Il Moro and so many really staple and important boots throughout the years. And so let's talk about how kind of all of that is morphing into what is this new line, if you would like to introduce it.
Okay, substantially the new line is called Cabrio, from the structure, as you know. And it's not simply a new 3-piece boot from Dalbello. It's the beginning of a new project. This is going to be a platform for the future development, not just of a free ride, but also of a free touring. And in the next year, you will see something new coming in this same kind of structure. Cabrio is substantially substituting Krypton and Chakra lines. Krypton was the male line and Chakra was the female line, and is exactly the same, but with updated handling, updated volumes inside the ski boot, and some new features that we will go through later.
Excellent. So we're talking about a new mold. And for this 23-24 season, we're looking at Cabrio low volume. So do you just want to talk a bit about that lineup and sort of how the development of this boot looked and some of the new features?
Okay. This year we are introducing the Cabrio LV, that is called stays for low volume. The last is 99 millimeters, so narrow, but a little bit more than before. That was a 98 millimeter last. The development and the main news are, I prefer to start with the liners because this has been the bigger jobs that we have done, both as product managers and as R&D.
Yeah.
And substantially, we have a new generation of liners. we are moving forward the Intuition Dalbello, and we are introducing the free density wrap liners. It is called free density because the liner is structured with 3 different layers of foams with different densities. Substantially, we have, you can take this.
Yeah.
We have 3 layers. The light gray one is the softer foam that grows around the foot and is giving comfort to the customers. The darker gray layer is denser and gives structure to the liner. And finally, on the external side, you can see that kind of spider. That is a polyurethane layer. It's very stiff, and it has been put there to gives a better power transmission from the leg to the skis. That's why it's called 3D density. That last layer, we call it pure. That lays for polyurethane recycled enforcement because it's a stiff layer of robust layer of polyurethane made from recycled origins. Also, the external tomaya, you can touch the gray part you see, is made of a recycled material. So everything you can touch externally in our new liner is recycled in the higher end models.
I gotcha. Yeah, and that, I mean, it makes a lot of sense as far as being able to offer everything from cushion to stiffness, power transmission. And so for this new Cabrio LV line, all the models have a wrap liner?
Yes, for this year, on the LV versions, all the liners have a wrap liner. There are mainly 2 different types. The one that you have had in a prototype in your hand that you can see on the 130, 120, and 115. And then there is another series of liners that you can find on the 95, 85 women, and 100 men that have been developed without the pure technology. There is still a 3rd layer of foam, but is let's say more comfortable. So less performing, but more adaptable to the normal and average skier.
Before we get into all the different boots that are offered in this lineup, as far as the details go, I mean, a lot of people, remember that Dalbello has often had a lot of different interchangeable parts to adjust things like forward lean. I'm seeing some new power strap designs, among other things. So what are some of the details you'd like to highlight with this series?
So, as you know, we always like to give you the possibility to customize the ski boot. And from this year, there are some big news. First of all, the forward lean can be controlled by this little insert on the back. You just need a 2mm hex screw to unscrew a screw here on the side. You can change this black piece on the back. And there is already in the box another block that is 2mm higher and improves the forward and increase the forward lean of a couple of degrees. So this is the most easier customization you can done right now on the liner.
Yeah,
on the ski boot, sorry.
That's nice. Yeah, it's a good system.
Yeah. One of the other big news we have introduced inside the new line called Cabrio is the handling system. As you know, before we had the Dynalink that was fixed in this position here. Now it has been moved coaxial to the pivot. So it's really working at 45 degrees, and when you're closing the buckle, it's much more efficient and the heel hold is improved. And one other thing we have changed, we don't have anymore the reversed 4-foot first buckle, but we have a normal buckle with an articulated tail in order to stay very close to the shell. So when you're on extreme steep slopes, you don't touch with the buckle. The articulated tail helps you with the gloves to open it. One other feature we have, the same feature has been implemented on the Dynalink. We call it Dynalock. There is a hook here that prevents this buckle from opening normally. You need absolutely to rotate the articulated tail in order to open the buckles. One other big news on the hard parts is the new booster that we're giving on the 130, 120, 115 models. And it has been developed internally since the booster patent has expired, and substantially used exactly the same concept, but in this case the elastic bands are sewn inside an elastic tube, so the design is really compact and easy to handle. So these are the main news regarding the hard parts. Then obviously cuff, shell, and tongue comes from new moldings, and we have developed them starting from the models we already have in line, because Lupo was already successful, Krypton was already pretty successful, and the same for Pantera. So we knew that we didn't have to change everything.
Yeah.
So starting from those geometries, those volumes, we developed the new ski boot.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a lot of pressure to want to keep all those, people who have loved those boots for so long, but also let's make it better.
We didn't want to lose that part of the market that was already in love with this structure, and we just tried to improve based on the feedback from athletes and main markets.
So all those details you just mentioned apply across the whole lineup, with maybe a couple exceptions on booster strap or power strap and things like that. Do you want to talk a bit more about the Il Moro? Because of course that is another boot that is really well known for your line.
The Il Moro, it's like say our image ski boot, and it shares all these features that I have just mentioned for the free ride lines. The main difference lays in the zeppa or boot board, I don't know how you call it here. And substantially it's not a normal foam, but is injected with a rubber in order to absorb vibration on the bigger jumps. And you can see it here, it's really flexible, and athletes are very happy about it.
Yeah. So everything else is the same, but just a different boot board.
Exactly.
And you have the option of a pretty cool looking boot as well.
Yeah, more stylish.
Well, then let's talk about the different models that we're looking at here, and just kind of the whole lineup as it exists right now.
Cabrio LV will come with 6 different models, 3 for men and 3 for women. For men version, we offer 3 flexes, 130, 120, and 100, while for women, we will offer 115, 95, and 85. What they have in common is that they all have polyurethane shell and polyurethane cuff, because we know that for boot fitters, polyurethane is the best material to work with, even if you have to punch it or you have to grind it. So we really work also close with some boot fitters to understand if for them it was an easy boot to work on. The other things that they share, 130, 120, and 115 and 95 is the tongue that is made of Pebax new, is a bio-based resin, while the 85 and 100, the 75 and 100 have a polyurethane tongue. The liners on 130, 120, and 115 are our best liners and are called 3D Wrap Max, while on the other one you will find the 3D Wrap Sport.
Yeah, so a pretty well-rounded series you have there. And let's just dive a bit into the women's specific boots, as far as maybe a couple of things that are done uniquely or differently for the women's boots, whether it's just sizing or whatever it may be.
But obviously the size range we offer is different. But in terms of, let's say, geometries and paddings of the liner, the 115 shares exactly the same development size as the top man liner, because we know that girls, even if they need maybe a lower flex, they still need a super narrow fit, and so the development there is exactly the same.
Perfect. All right, well, in line with the Cabrio series, the new one, what do we have here?
Here we have the Cabrio Free line. Substantially, this is the line that is going to substitute the Lupo line, and it's still a 99mm last line. It is sharing the exact same volumes in the shell as the free ride line, the Cabrios. And the difference here lays in the cuff, in the tongue, and in the fact that we have Pintec and a ski walk mechanism to go uphill. The lineup is composed by 4 models: Cabrio Light, Cabrio 130 3D Wrap, Cabrio 120, and Cabrio 105 Woman. The reason why we have 2 130 ski boots is that they have been developed in a different way. The Cabrio Light, that is not here in the bench, is made with Grilamid on the shell and have a liner, a tongue liner that have been developed focusing on the uphill performance. While the version that you have here, the Cabrio 130 3D Wrap, is has a polyurethane shell, so the best in terms of absorption and vibrations, and has a 3D wrap liner that has been developed for focusing on the downhill performance. Then we have the Cabrio 120 and Cabrio 105 with normal tongue liners, still polyurethane shell.
I see. And as far as constructional differences, both plastics and maybe some other features that went into the design of a boot that can go uphill, what are we looking at?
So the main news we have compared to the Lupo line is that substantially when we started this project, talking with market customers, athletes and dealers, we discovered that what they didn't want was to take the tongue off every time. They have to walk uphill and then to put it on every time, because sometimes you are at 3,000 vertical meters, it's windy, you have fresh snow to your knees, and working and handling with the tongue, it's difficult. So one of the main focus on this project was to have a ski boot, three-piece structure, but with not a removable tongue. So what we have done here is to have a bi-injected tongue. This substantially allows us to have a really soft plastic in these areas that are the areas that deforms the most when walking, and still a pretty stiff plastic in this area, the black one. The tongue is thinner compared to the previous Lupo tongue, but the flex is kept very high and stiff thanks to an insert that is inserted here in the back of the cuff. It's screwed on this screw here. That insert have two options of regulations. You can put it in high or down, and if you put it high, the stiffness of the boot is higher. If you put it in the lower position, it's softer, it's more progressive. And sorry. And moreover, we have new cuff made of polyamide, charged with carbon fiber on 130 models, and with fiberglass on 120 and 105. One of the interesting things we have here is that the shell shares the same insert here on the back. So it is possible to regulate the forward-leaning inclination by changing this little insert. And moreover, it's also possible to regulate the canting by rotating this pivot. The nice thing is that since this surface is rounded, and also the ski walk mechanism surface is rounded, once you're changing the inclination of the cuff, it automatically adapts to the insert. So substantially, you have a continuous contact surface between the ski walk mechanism and the shell.
I see. Nice. Well, that's a pretty, well-rounded up lineup. Is there any other details you want to highlight with this new boot?
One of the we have seen in these years that many athletes prefer 3D wrap liners to normal tongue liners for the downhill performance. So that's why we have this model with free wrap liner. What we have done here is substantially these are the same materials as the freeride version liner, but we have a difference because here and here we have two joints that helps the liner to deform. So when you're walking, you don't have a stiff structure around your shin, but you have something that kind of follows the movement of your shin. And this has been one of the great improvements we have made in this liner.
Nice. And with the density of that liner too, it seems like it'd be a warm liner.
Yeah, exactly. But these are exactly the same material as the freeride version.
Gotcha.
Same recycled tomaya, same recycled also the sole, and the handles are also recycled. So yes, we really focused on every detail for these liners.
Awesome. And of course, I know you guys offer a lot of other touring boots as well. So who is the Cabrio Free for when it comes to?
The Cabrio Free has been developed for a target group of skier that don't want compromises on the downhill. This line is mainly focused on downhill performance and on hard chargers. And it goes from 1.7 kilograms to 1.8 kilograms, depending by the models. And let's say that has not been developed for 10 hours uphill hikes. Yeah. So not for going up to the average. For those for those stuff, we have the Quantum line.
So I know you mentioned there's two models of the 130, a 130 Lite and then just the regular 130. So let's just maybe highlight a couple of those differences. And
Okay. So the 130 Lite, as I was telling you before, has a acrylamide shell that is lighter than a polyurethane shell and has a classic tongue liner with a joint on the back. This offers you a much better performance while going uphill because the movement of your ankle is, let's say, more free. Instead, on the 130 normal version, you have a free wrap liner that offers you the best performance downhill. We still have the joints here to give you some walkability, but it's not comparable to the one of a tongue instant fit liner.
Excellent. All right. Well, Riccardo, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for being here at the Blister Summit. I know you came a long way, all the way from Italy to be here. And of course, for those who want to hear more from you, we will have a panel session that's coming up tonight. But it's really cool to hear all that's happened in the way of Cabrio. And I think this is an exciting time to see how far you guys have taken 3-piece boots. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, Cara.